It was a historic win for the Baylor Bears here on Locked On Baylor. Bears win in West Virginia for the first time ever, and they looked pretty good doing it. Wasn't flawless, but they looked pretty good doing it. And the Bears hit bowl eligibility. You might remember there's a theme of this year and how it pertains to Dave Aranda. What is going to keep him in town after the Bears took a gamble to keep him here last year? I've been asked that question 1,000 times. You've been asked that question 1,000 times. You've been asking the question 1,000 times. What's it going to take for Baylor fans to buy back into Dave Aranda and keep him in Waco? And I think the majority of us said bowl eligibility. To hell with progress and looking better, looking more competitive, less penalties, none of that. Bowl eligibility is what it's going to take. The Bears are now going bowling, and they are apparently retaining their head coach. The news broke Saturday night. Colt Barber of Sikkim 365 was the first to report it, that according to a Baylor spokesperson, the university is retaining Dave Aranda for the 2025 season. Dave's job is safe for another year. Mixed reaction to that, but mostly positive, because people are seeing the results, this 4-game win streak, the fact that there is a core that is coming back next year, and that they're getting some good players coming in, really good players coming in the class of 2025. Now, some of the naysayers have asked, did we need to do that? Did we need to announce Dave Aranda was coming back with 2 games left in the regular season? Was that necessary? I think most of us knew that bowl eligibility was going to get him there. So why does this need to be an announcement? And I get that. I thought the same thing. I came up here and said the same thing about Billy Napier a few weeks ago. Really? They're halfway through the season. Why are they announcing that he's coming back? I don't know. It's just odd. I mean, you obviously want everyone on the same page, but I guess in today's society that if you're doing poorly, the locker room just thinks the coach is going to be gone. But the Bears make that official, reportedly official, that they're sticking with Dave Aranda in 2025. Another kind of half glass empty opinion I've been hearing that I also understand is, well, with Baylor playing so well right now, why are we almost settling at bowl eligibility to be the standard? Why is it that once a coach has secured the fact that he will not be any worse than 2 games under 500, why is that good enough to keep a coach for season number 6? Short answer is because you won 3 last year and you've doubled your win output with 2 weeks left in the regular season. That's the short answer of it. But I also understand why some Baylor fans would think that, right? We want the standard to be high. We want the standard to be what it was 5 or 10 years ago. And the reality is it's tough to do that when you're coming off a 3-win season. And going from 3 to 6 wins is already a pretty big jump in college football to double your win output. You know, that's pretty good. And in fact, I believe some of the coaches are using that phrase that Art Briles used to use in terms of being the standard. Like in all that to say, it's time to change the standard. You know, we're not just looking for bowl eligibility. We're aiming higher than that. You know, remember The Climb? Not the Miley Cyrus song, the picture that they showed on the broadcast, and Dave Aranda talked about trusting the climb. Great Miley Cyrus song, by the way. Come on. I think that's actually technically Hannah Montana. Great song. Very motivational. I use it in my everyday life. But it went to show that Baylor is aiming for higher than this. And I said it on the post game, and I stick with it. I don't know that they'll reach what their ultimate goal is this season. 9 wins, if they get there, is a heck of a season. After 3-9, that is awesome. But what this winning streak is proving is that this team could come back and be in some sort of championship contention next year. Like they could be contenders in the Big 12 next year, which no one believed would be the case this year. In fact, I went back and I looked at some of the coaches who were on the hot seat coming into this season. And the article I found had Dave Aranda at number 2. It's from Sports Grid. And plenty of others had Dave Aranda high up on the list, right? He was number 2, only behind Sam Pittman at Arkansas. And you've seen the signs in Arkansas after that loss to UT. They're still ready to run Sam Pittman out of town. And I found that to be interesting. Pittman, Aranda, similar tenures. They've been there the same amount of time. They both had great seasons in 2021. That felt like the program was back on track. Arkansas hadn't felt that good in a decade since Ryan Mallett had left the team. And with Dave Aranda and Baylor, it was like, okay, now new Big 12 is upcoming. This is a championship team, most wins in their history. Here we go. And it's not gone like that since. Dave Aranda is now 29-29. Sam Pittman is 28-30. And they are ready to push his butt out of town in Fayetteville still. And Dave Aranda is coming back. So that's some ammo for the people who think that Baylor doesn't have high enough standards. But again, I said bowl eligibility. I'm okay with keeping him here because clearly they've bought into the message still. And it's working, and there's recruiting momentum. And finally, it seems, he's got the right coordinators in place. Now, that's not to say that it was not Dave Aranda's fault. The head coach picks who the coordinators are, and he has not gotten that right the last couple of years. But Jake Spavital in there, that's correct. That very much seems to be correct. Although we would have been saying the same thing about Jeff Grimes and that wide zone offense after winning 12 games in year 1 of Grimes in 2021. So, jury's still out, but it looks great right now. And I will say, it's funny that the guy who coordinates or calls the plays for the other side of the ball is the head coach, and it has not been great during this win streak. And in fact, I thought he made some questionable coaching decisions in that win against West Virginia. Most of you are going to say, yeah, the onside kick after you just went up 14 with 2.5 minutes to go in the second quarter. What the heck was that? I get that. I was kind of a fan of it at the time, and still, like, I'll stick by it. I kind of liked what he was doing there. It didn't work out, and you went and you did a surprise onside with a backup corner kicking the onside kick and giving a short field to a West Virginia offense that you'd had some trouble with in that first half, and it kind of kept them back in the game. In the second half, they had a 4th and 12 from the plus 37. 4th and 12 is not easy. But when you're averaging over 10 yards a play at that point, I don't want to take my best player off the field in favor of a 55-yard field goal attempt, which they missed. Because, hey, if you get anything positive, it's better field position than missing the field goal. They weren't going to make that field goal, okay? With all due respect to Isaiah Hankins, they were not hitting from 55. It was not going to happen. I would rather keep Sawyer Robertson and Bryson Washington and Josh Cameron on the field than go for that 55-yard field goal. But maybe that's just me. So it's kind of funny that it comes out after a game where there was not great head coaching decisions, and they're keeping him anyway. I did want to read this blurb before we get out of the segment on what they were saying on Sports Grid about Dave Aranda being number 2 on this list. Dave Aranda looked like a star in the making when he took the Bears to a 12-2 record in his second season after leaving his post at LSU. It looks more and more like that season was the mirage, as Baylor had losing seasons in each of its past 2 campaigns, and Aranda is now only 23-25. The Bears are in the Big 12, a league that big money donors will feel is there for the taking if Baylor is well coached. As things currently stand, Baylor is one of the few teams not given much chance to contend in the wide open Big 12. Baylor plays Utah in week 2, Colorado in week 4, and Iowa State in week 6. If they drop all those road games and are just 3-3 heading into a bye week, questions will be asked in Waco. 2024 win total, 5.5. They did lose all those games, plus another one. There were questions asked, and they've now surpassed the win total. So kudos to you, Dave Aranda, and hopefully that stability and that coaching ability will set Baylor on the right track for the next 5 years instead of being backed up for a decade, which is where we thought this was going just a few weeks ago. Thank you for making it to the end of the video, and thank you for making the Locked On Podcast Network part of your daily routine. We have got you covered with the most Baylor Bears athletics coverage of any outlet that's not directly tied into Baylor University. So if you want more of that, be sure to like and subscribe. Ring that notification bell to get notified every time we're dropping a video here on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts. Thanks, and sick 'em.